That's it. We're back. We're live. We're here on a Friday afternoon, 4 to 5. ThinkTech Hawaii, ThinkTech Talks, where the road leads. And the road, if you did not know, leads to Manoa. You know, they say that is the center of the universe. I think Representative Isaac Choy says that every day.
Well, it's God's country.
It's
What
God's
do you, what do you
country.
expect?
I got to spend more time there.
We want to keep it God's country. And today we're here to share with you about our fair we're going to have and all our efforts that we're trying to prepare Manoa for a potential disaster.
Good idea.
And I got a partner here, Helen Nakano.
Okay, Helen Nakano. She's with Be Ready Manoa, which is a really perfect phrase. And in the middle, David Seth, who is with the National Disaster Preparedness Training Center.
Very good, Jay.
And for us in the know, we just call it NDPTC.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's right. In the know.
And now I'm going to give up my position as Uber host to Ted Ralston, who is in Kona, relaxing himself in Kona, who is actually acting as the host. He is the host of this show. The show is Where the Road Leads. Welcome to your own show, Ted.
Thank you very much, studio announcer. This is Ted Ralston welcoming our faithful to the weekly show at ThinkTech Hawaii that we variably call The Road to the Future, The Path to the Future, and such. And as Jay already mentioned, that road leads right through Manoa. And obviously Manoa is very important to us. The university's there on the one hand, and it also is subject to a lot of hydrology issues and rain, and we've seen that in the past. So the fact that Manoa is taking a lead effort here in pulling us in the direction of readiness is excellent. So we'll have our guests, Helen Nakano, Isaac Choy, and Dave Seth talk a little bit about the fair that's coming up in 2 weeks, invite participation and invite people down to that fair. But by way of introduction, we've formed this general series of programs along the lines of technology and how technology can assist Hawaii and how Hawaii can assist the Pacific Rim in that bigger way. Technology, in this case, being the art of solving problems, not necessarily circuit boards and high-strength structural materials. So technology can also be the idea of bringing different ideas together. Technology can be the means by which we allow people to see different pictures and see new pictures and pictures of the future and achieve those future pictures through collaboration. I think that's what we see here on the table today. If I can reflect just to last Friday, we had Terry Rivera on here and Owen Shea, who had both come from recent experiences in Puna as part of the disaster recovery effort there. And they gave us some fantastic insight as the takeaways from our discussion. And one was that we've got to take all the research and development going on out there and focus it through a lens of common practices and get that understanding made useful that is being developed out of R&D, make that useful in the daily life of ourselves, and also think of that in the sense of a whole of community effort, involve the entire community. No better example of that than we have right here taking place in Manoa very shortly, which we'll hear about. And we need a think tank or a collaboration framework behind that allows this to occur and allows Manoa to connect with Puna, for example. And that's why I think what Dave Seth represents with the National Disaster Preparedness Training Center. CG, I got the whole thing out in one piece there. Without
Not
Good
bad.
job. Good job.
and, I've only said it 100 times, and most people don't the same about now. In any case, there's some folks in Puna listening to this show. They're not actually on it, but one of the things I'd like to ask our panel members at the end of the show is, what would they most want to hear from Puna and Puna's recent experiences to be applied to the upcoming Be Ready Manoa activity and activity beyond there? And secondly, what might Puna and Manoa exchange in terms of information, maybe through NDPTC on a continuous basis, so we can all learn from each other? So saying no more about that than what I have said, let me just ask our three guests, and we'll consider Jay as the Uber, to be a trapped individual and not necessarily a guest, paid employee, you might say. And we'll start
I reserve the right to make commentary, however.
at all times. So Helen, if you tell us a little bit about Be Ready Manoa, how it came into being, how you see it playing out, and how the public, not just from Manoa, but across the island, can participate in Be Ready Manoa.
Well, let me tell you, I'm really, really excited about what we're trying to do with the community. It started in November of last year when the
DPTC
helped us bring a FEMA course for community leaders in November of 2013. And we gathered a group of leaders together. We talked about it and we realized that we had to depend on ourselves first. So as a community, we started organizing, and by November of 2014, we became the first urban community in Honolulu to have actual written disaster preparedness plan. So that was a pretty fast thing, considering that we had to meet almost weekly over the holidays. And then after that, we decided that we would need to have a community buy-in. So that's when we thought about doing this fair in September. But in between that, we knew that we couldn't just do a fair. We had to organize two separate and very important groups. They were the churches, the faith-based organizations in Manoa, and we did that. We found that there were almost 20 faith-based organizations in Manoa. So we contacted them and said, let's get together. And so 2 days ago, we had a meeting of all the church leaders, and they were really excited about it. And they said, let's get together. We realized that we're going to have problems. We need to communicate. We'll share resources. And so they have already the first project that the church leaders are going to do together. And guess what it is? Clean up the public toilets.
Wonderful.
Yeah. 2 weeks after the fair, they are going to get together with their congregations and with the people who volunteer from the fair, and they're going to clean up our public toilets.
Well, this makes me feel we need to take a break.
Very good.
Hosting from Kona, Ted Ralston. At way my left, Isaac Choy, Representative Isaac Choy, Helen Nakano to my immediate left, and David Seth from the NDPTC. You can figure that out later. We're going to take a short break here on Where the Road Leads. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Donna Blanchard, and I host the show Center Stage on the ThinkTech Hawaii digital series right here every Wednesday from 2 to 3 Hawaii time. I would really love to have you watch the show and see what we do here. I talk with some of the most amazing people, artists, most of them, all of them involved in some sort of artistic process. And our goal here on the show is to dig into that artistic process, and you would not believe what some people say, what some people do, what people go through to express. And these are people who have to express somehow, and I find that infinitely interesting. Not only that they have to express, but how they end up doing it. I really hope that you will watch the show and enjoy talking with some of these people the same way that I do. Thanks, and I hope to see you soon on Center Stage on the ThinkTech Hawaii digital series, Wednesdays from 2 to 3. See you soon.
No.
Hey, we're back. We're live. We're here on ThinkTech Talks on a Friday, Where the Road Leads, and the road leads to Manoa with Be Ready Manoa. We have Isaac Choy, Representative Isaac Choy, Helen Nakano, and David Seth, and we're talking about Be Ready Manoa. So let's see, as we left it, and Ted Ralston in Kona, and Ted, you can help me out on this. As we left it, we were going to the bathroom.
That's right. I want to tell you about our school efforts. We have 8 schools involved in this and 3,000 children. And we are so excited about it. We have 4 public schools. They are Manoa, Noelani, Stevenson, and Roosevelt, and 4 private schools. We have Punahou, Marino, St. Francis, and UH Manoa Laboratory. And they are working on a 50 question and answer study guide, and all of the children have to bring it home. They have to bring this card home, and then their parents sign it, having reviewed it as a family, and then they bring this
Hold it up. This
Okay.
is the card. This is
Yep.
the card. We're going to get a shot of that now.
And the children have to come to the fair, and they will be tested at the fair. So when they get 10 of these, then they get a disaster blaster go bag where they can put all their emergency supplies. So we have 3,000 of them. Oh, 2,000, right?
2,000.
And so we're hoping that all the children come and we're ready for them. Thank you.
Helen, let me just break in for a moment. I think repetition, we've learned, is really important on this program, especially when there's new ideas coming forth. So please repeat to us what the dates are and the times and the location of the Be Ready Manoa Fair and where people can park and things such as that.
All right. The Be Ready Manoa Fair is going to be 2 weekends from now, Saturday, September 13, from 9 o'clock to 2 p.m. at the Manoa Park Gym, the new gym. And it's being sponsored by the First Hawaiian Bank and Central Pacific Bank, and we're really grateful. And there are a whole bunch of other sponsors that are helping us, and Safeway Manoa is giving us 1 week of emergency food, and Coca-Cola is donating all the water for a couple to survive for 1 week. And so it's on display right now at Safeway. And so this is going to be the grand prize for our fair. So
We'll ask you to repeat that the time and date and the parking and the access again after the next break and the next break to make sure everybody gets it.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, as you can see, Jay, we're both we're trying community outreach to make sure that Manoa is ready. We're doing awareness. We're doing an educational program because we feel that if we can teach our children, they'll teach their parents. You know, sometimes we think it's the other way around. So we have prizes, and of course, I'd like to mention again that we're so grateful to the contributions of First Hawaiian Bank and Central Pacific Bank to underwrite the cost of all of this. But you know, just to share a little story, back in November when we first started this program, and I went to the training course, you know, we're all under the impression that when something happens and we dial 911, they're going to come. And I found out at that meeting,
Nobody's coming.
nobody, if there's a natural disaster of some magnitude, especially a direct hit on Waikiki, they're not coming. They're not coming. And also, I also found out that we have to prepare ourselves, and once we prepare ourselves, we have to take care of our neighbors. And Helen Nakano has been a community leader in Manoa forever. So you know, because of our role as a community leader, we were trying to build community. We want to make sure that once we take care of ourselves, we have to take care of our neighbors. And once we take care of our neighbors, then we take care of our community. And Manoa, again, being the representative there, I know, and having lived there all my life, it's a very special place. So we're trying to, you know, make sure that we organize the community, we give them the tools that they need in order to be prepared. And so we do have a two-pronged attack. One is awareness, that's our fair, but in the background we also have what we call a tactical practical team, and these are our licensed ham operators, and there's, you know, you're a tech guy, so you know they're talking about putting a communications protocol in just for the valley. And I learned things like you can buy those little radios for $60 at Costco, and they'll be broadcasting what we need to know during a national disaster. So we have a tactical, practical side. We have an awareness side. Helen is just a great leader in heading up our educational initiatives so we can get our kids involved. We want to get the whole community involved. And of course, your organization is a great organization that's helped guide us through this entire process, because let's face it, I'm a politician, so I don't know how to do any of this. You know? so you know, an organization like yours is just fantastic. And maybe you can share with us, you know, how this all came about. And you know, you guys always talk about Katrina and Sandy, you know, and that's how it all started back in November with you folks, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're, you know, first let me say we're thrilled at both Isaac and Helen's effort in the community, Jay, to put this together. You know, this is an ideal scenario where where people come and get excited about what we're talking about being prepared, and then go out and do it. You know, they're not waiting for the government. We're not waiting for someone to
Yes.
come along and do it for them, as I was saying, but become that grassroots effort that learn to take care of themselves and to take care of each other. And some of the things that Helen had alluded to, you know, as the community comes together, the byproducts are cleaning the bathrooms and learning more about each other, you know, in the faith-based community and the different groups that live in Manoa that they may not know each other otherwise, except for this coming together. And, you know, we want to point to this as an example, frankly, that all communities can begin to replicate. There's a lot of communities out there that are having these disaster preparedness fairs, but by and large, this is the model one we'd love to point to, because yeah, again, Isaac and Helen and their teams have done such a great job at really mobilizing the community from the grassroots, and then bringing in sponsors and partners, Safeway, Bank of Hawaii, etc.
Just great. May I comment? I did reserve my comment, yeah. So here we have, what was the name of that hurricane not too long ago? Isel, okay. And
Tropical storm. No.
tropical storm.
Remember, the president didn't give us a disaster.
We weren't sure. We weren't sure. It could have been a really bad one too,
Yeah.
and it could have been 2 in a row, and that would be
That's right.
awful. And so, in everybody's mind, there's the possibility that we're going to get hurt. In everybody's mind is the notion, at least a lot of people's mind, is the notion in climate change here. This kind of thing happens in an El Nino year. We're really in bad shape if anything happens. And Oahu never got it before. Kauai had it a couple times, but Oahu has been lucky. I say, whoa, boy, and then miraculously we are spared. It's a wonderful thing, but you don't forget the fear that you had.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, and you say to yourself, okay, we examined this, we watched it on the news, we learned to some extent, about the early warning systems. We talked to the National Preparedness Training Center, and we learned what structures we have. And then I'm sure you've heard this before, is the conversation going to stop? Is that it? Okay, all finish, walk away, and then we'll have the same experience, except may not be so good the next time. No, Helen figured that out.
That's right.
And Isaac knew already.
That's right.
And the idea is that you learn from this and you find a certain political will in it, and you find a will in the neighborhood, and what more appropriate way to divide up the city and the state but by Ahupua'a. That's
right.
what it
Yes.
is. This is the valley, and the people know each other, and they all have a certain sense of community. So you build an organization, grassroots from the community. This is a beautiful thing, and it operates as a model. It's a model not only for climate change and storms, but for a lot of other things.
Yes.
And your success in this matter, which I think you've already established actually, should be a model for other communities just like this, not only in storms, but other kinds of situations. And this is really a remarkable aspect of Hawaii that it could happen. And kudos to you all.
Thank you. Now, Jay, this is not the first effort we made in Manoa. We based this on our neighborhood security watch, and I don't know if you ever heard of it. We're the neighborhood security watch on steroids. I can just share this little story with you. There was the man that was accosting the people. We put an alert out, a description of his car with our neighborhood security watch protocol, email, the communications protocol. We found this person in an hour and a half. We found the car in Manoa in an hour and a half. And at the next neighborhood security watch meeting I had, I scolded everybody in Manoa because you know what I said? Why did it take you an hour and a half? Next time I'm only going to give you 20 minutes to get this done. But we do have a really wonderful community. And your comment about continuing, this is just the beginning. In fact, after we get this done and a little bit more awareness within our community, we have our practical plan coming out. And next summer, I'm going to try something, and I'm going to try a practice night. Now, I was very, very ambitious, and I was telling everybody, I said, yeah, you know what we're going to do? We're going to turn off our electricity, we're going to turn off our water for 2 days, and we're going to see if we can survive. Well, that went over like a lead balloon. So far...
I still like it.
Okay, so far, the consensus is let's turn off our water and electricity for like 5 hours and see if we make it. You know? But come on, let's face it. The experts says 7 days, and our community is saying 5 hours. It's going to be so you know it's going to be little steps like that, and so we're going to practice. We're going to practice our communication protocol, and you don't know this, but well, you may. Helen is CERT trained.
I didn't know that.
Oh my God!
I'm impressed.
So why don't you explain a little bit about CERT training?
CERT is the city and county's training that they do for citizens to get them prepared so that they can volunteer during a disaster and after a disaster to make sure that community members and others are okay. And it's a rigorous training, so it's nothing to take lightly. And I'm very impressed. Congratulations.
It's great. Perfect. So, Ted, what part of this discussion do you agree with?
Well, actually, I was going to ask this the panel, in particular Dave, the discussion.
I'll take that as I agree with everything.
That's right.
Measurement and evaluation, and to some extent a transfer from the practical experience that Helen and Isaac are leading us into the training environment that Dave generates. How do we reach forward from this experience, bring it into the training, and how do we take that training that's benefiting from Manoa's experience and push it out to other communities? So how do you evaluate, how do you think about this in a way that encourages other communities to participate? And I go back to the question at the beginning of the show, what would you want Puna to tell Manoa? Or what would Manoa most want Puna to tell Manoa about how they got surprised and issues that they may not have been prepared for to the extent that they would like? Because as you said, Jay, there is no end to this road. The road keeps on going. It goes right through Manoa and keeps getting repaved. And that's the model here. There is no end state. It's a continuously evolving situation and circumstance. But measuring it and evaluating and then comparing and encouraging are the themes that are where that lasting value comes in. And I do think that NDPT, what do we call it, Dave?
NDPTC.
Yeah, blueprint.
We need a vowel here someplace. Somebody help us.
That'd be great. It would be great for that organization to pick this role up of acting as the center roller bearing between the various communities and generating that force into the future.
No, and Ted, everything you said is really right on. When does preparedness end? Never. Preparedness goes on all the time, and every year you've got to do it again and again. I think the takeaway for both Manoa and Puna, frankly, is partnerships. That's and community building. That's where this all kind of came. We really just played a small part in this. We had the opportunity to do a course for some terrific people, and they got the vision and ran with it. And I know in every community where that opportunity is, people are excited to take the vision and run with it. And I think because of these storms, because of what we saw take place in Puna, people are going to get the message. They are going to see that we need to take care of each other. We need to be prepared. I know this weekend, actually, Puna is having its own preparedness fair.
Wow.
We'll be over there and talking to those folks. We'll have a booth set up. And again, just encouraging them on their road to recovery. And, the season's not over. We still have several months to go. So certainly not time to let our guard down. But again, partnership, relationship, and community. That's what really this is all about.
Well, I feel we got to take a break, but I also feel that the question that Ted is going to be asking you after this break is something like this. So you guys have created out of whole cloth this remarkable community coming together, and it is remarkable, and it is important. But what are the challenges? What else do you have to do to realize the vision as you see it today? I feel certain that is what Ted is going to ask you immediately after the break. Well,
Ted's also going to ask Helen to repeat once again the time and date and location of Ready Manoa.
Okay, let's take a break first. We come back. We have a full plate when we come back from this break. This is where the road leads. The road leads to Manoa. Be Ready Manoa with Isaac Choy, Representative Isaac Choy, Helen Nakano, and David Seth. We'll be right back.
Aloha, my name is Carlos Juarez, and I host Global Connections here on ThinkTech Hawaii's broadcast series. We broadcast live at Thursdays at 2 o'clock and also on Olelo 54. Make sure to join us here where we bring the world to Hawaii and we also bring the Hawaii to the world. We look forward to seeing you here on Global Connections.
Can you tune in?
Okay, we're back. We're live. I'm Jay Fidell. Where the road leads. The road leads to Manoa. Be Ready Manoa with Representative Isaac Choy, Helen Nakano, and David Seth. And before we get into our homework, we had a question. It was all structured. There was the CERT training you mentioned during the break. I agree with you. The audience needs to know more about that.
Jay, this CERT training, and Dave, I'm living this. Okay,
No, please.
but it's people think this is first aid and everything, but more it's a triage and assessment. So, Jay, if you're lying on the side of the road and Helen comes to you and she looks at you and she thinks you're gone, she's moving on, and she'll make that assessment. So if I were you, I'd make some make sure that
I hope you do the right thing.
So it is an assessment triage tool, right?
Yep.
Right, Dave? And it just takes your resources and make sure it's placed where it'll do the most good. So again, she's my buddy. I'm sticking with her.
Stay friendly.
Stay close.
Don't put that toe tag on me before I die.
That's right.
Okay, Ted, all yours. Carrying on as you were.
Okay. Thanks, Jay. The question once again is, Helen, please repeat to us and instruct us as to the time and date, access, and park for Be Ready Manoa.
All right. It's Saturday the 13th. That's Saturday the 13th from 9 to 2. And it's at the Manoa Park, the big gym. And you access it through Manoa Road, not through Kaipu. So come, be prepared. We have about 70 booths that are going to try to educate you, entertain you, and I'm hoping that everyone will stay because we have lots of activities for them. Thank you very much.
Okay. And the conversation we had going, Jay, just before the break was, how do we homogenize these experiences? How do we share them from one organization to the other? How do we find that next state and that never-ending road? How do we pave over the potholes and go forward?
Can I add something to that? Where are the problems in organizing this kind of organization? And what do you see in the future that you have to do that you haven't been able to do yet?
So let's turn to Dave, who might have the broadest perspective on that from dealing with this situation in multiple locations.
Yeah, Ted, good question. Jay, good question. I think the opportunity or challenge opportunity is to continue to be out there working with communities and not let our guard down. I think Hawaii is positioned geographically that we're fortunate a lot of storms do go around us, but we can't let our guard down. We need to be prepared, and it's again through the energy and effort of communities, of the partnerships in those communities that will continue to drive that forward. Isaac, I love your idea of turning the power off for a few hours one night, maybe turning the water off, but it's those places where the community can practice what it has learned, practice being together, practice those skills for being prepared and for recovering from a disaster event, something like we've seen in Puna.
From my perspective, I'd like to challenge, if I could, my fellow legislators to get involved and organize their particular community. Helen knows that I walk door to door, so instead of passing out political campaign, which I should be doing, she makes me pass out disaster preparedness checklists and clips to make sure that my neighbors have, and we've done that with 4,000. We've passed out during the campaign season. The political leaders can get together, and they're the ones who really are in touch, or should be in touch with all the different groups in their particular district. So I try to leverage that and make sure that I use, whether you hate me or not, hey, disaster's going to happen, at least take this checklist and protect your family. So I think when you talk about challenges, I feel that I challenge my fellow colleagues to get out there. Let's make our community safe. We can do it.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's leadership. It's what it is. And it's leveraged leadership because you can bring people together to do something they wouldn't otherwise do.
Right. And in every community, you have spark plugs like Helen, and she's a spark plug, or she's going to kick you in the cole. But either way, she's going to help you get it done. And fortunately, in Manoa, it's not only Helen Nakano. We have a whole slew, and I wish I could name them all. But there's dozens of people that's willing to come forward, especially with their level of expertise. We have a nurse, and we have ham radio guys. We have engineers, and we have people that can do computer work, and we can have people who can do graphic drawings. And these things are all homemade. All these things are all homemade, and we didn't hire anybody to do them. So we have all these resources in the community that they're willing to help, and all we need to do is organize them. Yeah.
I think what Isaac said is really interesting, and that is the spark plug. That the more you learn to understand what she's all about, Helen is such an example of that kind of spark plug. And I don't think she understands the word no. But I can also tell you that she doesn't not hesitant to say when things don't make any sense. We were just anecdotally, Helen, no offense or anything, but we had this big gathering of big brains about 2 or 3 months ago. And everybody was giving around the room their views of how this ought to go forward. And Helen said, can somebody please make this practical, something we can use? And so I thought that was a great takeaway, Helen, and I have attempted to discipline myself in that regard. So how do we bottle up and make more Helens? That's the interesting. Interesting.
Ted,
Now, I think that goes back.
I don't take this credit, because if it weren't for people like Isaac Choy, and I really appreciate it, if he didn't help us, and if he didn't have a wonderful office manager like Carol, who helped us in so many ways when we were getting started, we would not be here. We would not be where we are right now. I mean, I wish the leaders would not only make laws, but come down to the local level and work with us. I mean,
Well,
that's what we need.
That's a fascinating comment, and it reacts a bit to Jay's question about what are the ways that you can make these things work across jurisdictional boundaries and such. And you're right on. It is the political element that has the access and the view to the jurisdictional issues that are going to have to be resolved here. And that then, in my mind, takes it back once again to Dave. And I'm just going to ask this open question. How do you at NDPTC, or how should you at NDPTC, deal with the political jurisdictional realms that exist? We've talked about Ahupua'a, but we really aren't structured Ahupua'a-wise within Hawaii here. So we have that bit of a conflict between that thinking, which really has hydrology as its basis and water flow, versus the way we've pocketed up the society. So we have some interesting political challenges that could emerge out of this discussion. And once again, Dave, don't feel any pressure. But
Thanks, Ted. No pressure at all.
okay, give us some feedback on that, Dave.
I would comment that, in a lot of ways, Manoa is ideal. It is a wonderful representation of the Ahupua'a, but I think our commitment is wider to whatever form the community is in its current condition. We want to go there and train and make sure that they're prepared for a disaster. So if they're divided along the Ahupua'a lines, if they're divided amongst other lines, if they're spread across the island in different ways, we want to be sure that we can work with the leadership there, the community, and train and help to again build the grassroots coalition and energy that we're seeing in Manoa.
Then that leads to another question, or a slightly modified version. Isaac, is it reasonable and possible to think of the political element getting together along the lines of what you might call the technical side that Dave deals in, and the human side that Helen deals in? Is there a political consortium or something that could come together that addresses the very issue that we've just talked about here? What are the barriers that might present themselves, and they're more than likely going to be associated with jurisdictional boundaries and different budget cycles and ultimately liability? So,
I think when you talk about these challenges, yeah, we can put the jurisdictional elements between city and county and state and all that into, but I think what Helen and I, what we believe in, and actually Helen taught me this many decades ago, that we got to start with the community, we got to start with one family, we start with one street, before we start getting in the myriad of government and the different agencies like yours, Dave. But we started with one street, we started with one group, and we just kept on growing and growing and growing. So I think that's the way everybody should start, and I think I think we can build community that way.
Yeah.
I assume from this discussion that, Dave, you're actively involved in kind of consulting with the group and exactly showing them exactly what they should be prepared for, and trying to make sure that this group is organized as an effective force for the next calamity. I'm just wondering if you could describe for us how that would work. Because it remains a logical possibility that the group would be a great civic, social experience, but when the storm comes, it doesn't work. So tell us your view about whether it will work and how it will work as and when that happens.
Yeah, I really do believe it will work, because it really is a collection of all the people in the valley, the schools, the churches, and everybody is going to leverage their resources and their energies first to be prepared themselves, and then to have that mindset to go out and take care of their neighbors. There are parts of the community, state civil defense and the city emergency management, they're going to have to do heavy lifting at some point, HECO, et cetera. There's just things that are going to happen in a disaster that all the community together isn't going to be able to put up the phone poles and bring the power back. But if everybody's ready to take care of themselves and take care of each other, so state civil defense and HECO, et cetera, can focus on the things they need to focus on, National Guard, et cetera, then everything moves a lot more smoothly, resources aren't overtaxed, and everybody is able to sustain for a long period of time, frankly. I mean, it could be a long period of time before power comes back on, before water is back, before signal happens. So if everybody's able to take care of themselves, take care of each other, then state and city, power, et cetera, can do the work they need to do, and that goes much faster.
How much money do you need to have the organization operate and build and have events and functions and outreach? And how do you raise that money? And is there a time, and this is, I think, part of Ted's question before, is there a time in the future, Isaac, when you would see that this was a statewide issue where there should be funds available to support organizations like this in a better form?
Well, we always could use funds from the state for organizations like this, but we have the greatest bigger in the in the state of Hawaii, and we do have very responsible corporate sponsors like Central Pacific Bank, Matson, First Hawaiian Bank. They've all been great. These are not cheap, and they've come forward and said, sure, we'll more than gladly sponsor that. Yes, you're backing me into a corner. I'll be more than glad to put a bill in to sponsor organizations like this. But I think, at the end of the day, the realization that if there is a catastrophe, that we have to take care of ourselves, I think that's the most important thing. So our educational awareness is really the most important thing. And yes, actually, Jay, let me comment this way. Maybe we don't want the state to get involved because we do such a great job as it is. How's that comment?
That's a great answer.
Helen and I, we do a great job.
Yeah.
There is a practical follow-up to that very discussion, and it goes back to one of the first sessions we had here, where we had Dr. Ken Kaneshiro from UH on the program. We were discussing Hawaii Exemplary State, which is forming up sort of at the state level, very much like what Manoa has done at the Ahupua'a level. So I think based on this conversation and a few we've had on previous Fridays, it's time to get Dr. Ken Kaneshiro back on again, and let's bring these existent examples into that focus, and that can help him push forward in the exemplary state world, which is all about collaboration, and it starts at K through 12, which is exactly what we've heard here from the people in Manoa. At the beginning of the show, I asked if our three guests could state the question that they've been thinking about all the time in the backplane here, on what they would most like to hear from Puna as it affects what we're thinking about in the Be Ready Manoa Fair, which Helen will tell us one more time when and where that's to be held. But we can get that question to the people in Puna and have them bring that information in prior to the fair, just so we have that reconciliation of current reality versus what we're thinking about here from our past practices. So let me ask you, starting with ladies first, Helen, what would you most like to have Puna tell you as Manoa?
I'm very concerned about the albizia situation. We have a lot of albizia, and to me, it was very much a part of the 2004 flood that was caused. And the branches all broke. They fell into the Manoa stream. It plugged up our bridges, and then it overflowed. So I want to ask them how they're going to handle the albizia eradication. And I would like to have Manoa copy or steal, borrow, whatever they have.
Okay.
Yeah, excellent question. I think the big question for us, and we think about disaster preparedness all the time, NDPTC. I would just like to know what caught them by surprise, and it may have been to albizia, but it may have been something else more subtle. And so I know we're in conversation with a lot of folks over there. We'll be talking to them again this weekend. And so what do we need to know that we didn't know?
So you might express that as Helen's talked about the symptomatic piece, the albizia problem. There must be some root to that problem that is how the albizia got started, how it was allowed to grow without control or something like that you may discover, Dave.
That's right.
And Isaac, sir, your thoughts?
I would like to know how the Puna people felt about the coordination of all the state and federal agencies and county agencies that helped them, how they integrated with the community, how they used the community resources to help alleviate the situation. Even the politicians that came in the area, I just want to know how they were helped, how they were coordinated. Could have been better coordination, better planning in the front end. I'd just like to know how they interacted and how we could better, as state, county, interact with the community and use their help. That's what I would like to know from the Puna people.
I think that's the essence and the basis for another program here, Jay, that will get the people from Puna to react to these three questions, and that'll certainly consume a lot of and generate a lot of discussion.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Ted, for setting this up. It's encouraging to hear about this kind of organization, to hear about how people come together, respond to something that happened before, will probably happen again, and to see the state. This is the essence of Hawaii, really. People can come together this way. It's a great thing. Yeah. Thank you so much, Isaac Choy, Helen Nakano, David Seth. It's been great discussion. We have to do it again. Thank you, Ted Ralston, for setting it up. Been great.
Thank you, Ted.
Aloha, all you guys.
Aloha.
All right.
Guys.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.